Hello, everyone. So today we'll be talking about homelessness in America. And the title of this talk is Homelessness in America, Living Between the Cracks of the American Dream. In the United States, homelessness counts have reached a record high in 2024 at 771,480 people, an 18% increase from 2023. We would always end up being robbed in our house or evicted, and my mom didn't know where to go. That is a quote from a person in an interview with the New York Times about how they came to experience homelessness. While many people acknowledge that homelessness is a real issue, debate arises around the root causes of homelessness and how to solve it. In this talk, I argue that homelessness is a complex, deep-rooted issue that should not be attributed to drug use, crime, or unwillingness to get a job, but rather to the affordable housing shortage in America. Firstly, it is important to understand what homelessness is and how it is measured. As defined in the Stuart B. McKinney Homeless Assistance Act by Congress, homelessness is defined as an individual who lacks a fixed, regular, and adequate nighttime residence, or whose primary nighttime residence is supervised, temporary, and publicly offered. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development uses a point-in-time count for measurement, which is a count of all sheltered and unsheltered people experiencing homelessness on a single night in January. Homelessness is especially prevalent, but not limited to larger urban cities such as New York City or San Francisco. In these larger urban cities, the demand for affordable housing is extremely high, but the supply is not. This is concerning because when people do not have a roof over their head, their dignity, and most importantly, their life, are threatened. Martha Nussbaum asserts that every person should have 10 central capabilities, including life, bodily health, bodily integrity, control over one's environment, senses, imagination, and thought. Although group-based nationwide policies may address each individual person's capabilities, most of them are not fully just because they leave some people having to bear tragic choices. A tragic choice is when two central capabilities collide, and a person is forced to choose one at the cost of the other. An example would be if a homeless woman engages in prostitution, compromising her bodily integrity to receive money so that she does not die of starvation. This happens. Sadly, homelessness inherently threatens several of the central capabilities and usually involves a series of tragic choices on a regular basis. It increases the risk of viral hepatitis, tuberculosis, HIV, and COVID-19, alongside substance abuse. Also, according to the CDC, stress, uncertainty, and threats to safety while being homeless increases the likelihood of anxiety, depression, and PTSD. So, with these health threats in mind, it is apparent that homeless people's central capabilities are indeed threatened. And since this issue is occurring in America at record high rates, what does that say about the justness of our society, according to Nussbaum, and why are policymakers allowing their citizens to suffer in such a way? Despite the immense suffering and health threats that homeless people endure, there is still widespread beliefs amongst some that homelessness is caused solely by drug addiction or unwillingness to work. Some of this ideology is driven by mere opinions, and another part of it is driven by the media. In a post on Truth Social in 2025, President Trump expressed his frustration with the homeless in D.C., stating that the homeless have to move out immediately. We will give you places to stay, but far from the capital. The criminals, you don't have to move out. We're going to put you in jail where you belong. Unfortunately, the rhetoric around the homeless is usually negative, and they are often placed in a category of criminal, drug-ridden individuals. While drug addiction and unwillingness to work are the causes of homelessness for a certain percentage of the homeless, they are not the causes for most. Moreover, these explanations fail to account for broader systemic issues such as the affordable housing crisis. The affordable housing crisis in America has left extremely low-income families with minimal, if any, options for livable housing. Consider the following statistics. For America's 10.8 million plus extremely low-income families, there is a shortage of more than 7 million affordable homes. There is no state or county where a renter working full-time at minimum wage can afford a two-bedroom apartment, and 1 in 4 extremely low-income families who need assistance receive it. These statistics are alarming because not only is there a massive affordable housing shortage in America, but there is also a shortage of assistance in other ways in which extremely low-income families can effectively respond to this trend. If getting a minimum wage job cannot even afford to rent a two-bedroom apartment in any state, what are the income earners in these families supposed to do? They are already in dire poverty, so simply finding a higher paying job is not attainable because that would require them to get a higher education or certification, both of which cost money that these individuals already do not have. Not only is there a shortage of affordable housing, but there is also a massive overall rise in the cost of buying a new home. The cost of buying a new home is the highest it has been since 1985. And since 2019, the income needed to buy a single-family home has doubled. In a 2020 study, researchers at the U.S. Government Accountability Office estimated that a $100 increase in median rent was associated with a 9% increase in the estimated homelessness rate. So, as rent rises at a disproportionately higher rate than wages, individuals and families in America cannot keep up. Consequently, eviction rates rise, and furthermore, homelessness rates do as well. There are also broader structural inequality factors that increase the likelihood of homelessness. In a 2023 study, archive data was extracted of people accessing homelessness shelters from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development over the 11 years spanning from 2007 to 2017. Alarmingly, it found that across all types of sheltered homelessness, Black, American Indian or Alaska Native, and Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander individuals and families were far more likely to experience homelessness than non-Hispanic white individuals and families. People of color are also more likely to be renters and severely cost-burdened, meaning that 50% or more of their income is spent on housing. A large part of solving the homelessness crisis rests in not only addressing why people are homeless, but also critically evaluating who is most vulnerable. As shown by the data, it must be acknowledged that the affordable housing crisis interacts with broader structural inequality issues that have persisted in the U.S. Another important consideration in the discussion of homelessness is substance abuse and mental illness, both of which are present in homeless populations. However, it is important to note that they are often results of homelessness, not root causes. When a person endures trauma, such as being evicted or losing their job and being forced onto the streets, there is a plethora of negative mental side effects, which further increases the likelihood of turning to substances as a coping mechanism. One report indicates that trauma was a factor for 68% of men and 76% of women who were homeless and in treatment for substance abuse. Furthermore, when substance abuse happens, homelessness and poverty becomes stickier, meaning it gets harder to escape. So while the average homeless person does have a higher chance of falling into one of these categories because of their situation, it is unfair and faulty to ascribe it to all the homeless as the reason why they are where they are. Solutions for the homelessness crisis in America should be focused on affordable housing, supportive services, and prevention strategies. The first and most important course of action is simply to increase the supply of affordable housing. As CBRE, one of the world's largest U.S.-based real estate firms, stated, development of new homes and restoration of older ones, reformed land use and zoning laws, and policies that direct credit toward building more housing are all potential tailwinds. 17% of urban land in the U.S. remains vacant due to zoning restrictions, and providing residents with direct financial incentives could help overcome zoning reform hesitancy among communities. Additionally, supportive services that provide mental health care assistance, addiction treatment, and job support must be expanded and improved. While these do not address the issue of people falling into homelessness, it helps reduce the stickiness of homelessness and raises the chance of upward mobility. On a positive note, the U.S. Treasury has already launched emergency rental assistance programs that have collectively provided communities over $46 billion to support housing stability and help renters who are facing eviction. Continued efforts to reduce the affordable housing shortage, improve supportive care, and develop prevention strategies are promising solutions to help reduce homelessness in America. In conclusion, homelessness is a complex issue that stems from the affordable housing shortage in America. Misconceptions and negative stereotypes of homelessness must be discerned from the structural reality that underlines it. In a just society, which America strives to be, no one should be compromised of their central capabilities or forced to make tragic choices. However, homelessness, which hit a record high in 2025, does just that. Although the American dream is alive for some, it is the American nightmare for others. Thank you.